Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, but
Okay,
I'm
good. Well, I just hooking up early to make sure I could.
oh man, I wait, there you are. Okay, I've stumbled into you. Um, whoops.
Well, I see you now at the top, and there's Scott.
Now I just lost you again without touching anything.
Oh, we're all at the top of the page, so maybe you need to
Hey
click
Scott.
on.
Hey,
Um,
good day.
oh
Can
that's
you hear
okay.
me?
I guess maybe it just blanks out on me when a new face shows up.
Yeah, if you go down to the bottom below the picture, it says participants, and it lists them.
No, I don't get that. I got
At the very,
Zoom meeting, so
oh,
you
okay.
cannot minimize Zoom workplace. Okay. Shit. There.
Well,
There now I get this picture again. Okay.
you go view,
We'll
you can
see.
see.
We'll see. There's this other thing down here.
You know,
No,
there's a
no, no,
place
no, no, no.
there's a place with nine dots, like dice. It says
I,
view. You see that VIEW? View, top of the page? No? The Zoom workplace way on the left and way on the right.
no.
There's, you click on view and you can see everybody or not see everybody.
Gallery view or speaker view?
Now I've got briefly you guys show up and then disappear again.
That's strange.
God damn it.
Huh.
There you are for the moment.
I'm steady.
No, Nora, I tried to call her. She's at work, I tried because I got something else showed up. Um, There's a little corner one. I'm not going to mess with that then, with an X with it. Um, and
Oh, excuse me.
I got you guys here, so I'm just going to not touch anything and hope that it holds true.
Okay.
So, um, hi. Uh, if we get a good crowd, then that picks down that little block at the bottom. Um, this is just so
It
alien to
just
me,
it,
all of
it
this.
looks so different. It looks different from last times.
No, except that it's not, I don't have this on the full screen. Maybe if I just moved the mouse just briefly without touching anything, and I went back to philosophical evolution seminar. Um,
We're still there. Um,
Maybe if I hit this hide join info, I'm
I
gonna
don't.
click on,
You've
I'm moving
joined
over.
us.
I
We've
cannot
joined
minimize.
you,
Okay.
right? Oh, you just can't see us all the time.
No, now you're blank again. Now I'm blank
Hmm.
again. Um, If I click and it says you cannot you cannot minimize Zoom in workplace when you're recording this meeting. So I say, okay, maybe I should
Right.
say X.
Well, then you might turn it all off. I don't know where you're talking about.
That's a little window. Um, I get at the bottom, I've got Zoom workplace and I've got Zoom meeting. Now that I've got the mouse over the Zoom meeting without clicking on it, I see you guys in a corner, small picture though. Um, s-
Maybe you should click on that.
Let me see if I double click on that. You cannot zoom. It keeps telling me I cannot minimize. It says
Oh,
start writing with AI Companion when I click on Phyllis Zoom
oh,
Workplace.
no, you don't want
I
to
don't
do
want
that.
that.
Right?
Oh, shit.
Yeah. Hmm. I can't imagine what. what you're looking at is if you just sit back and look at the very bottom right, you see the little man leaving the door and it says leave. You're not
At the
looking
very
at the
bottom,
same.
I've got start, then I've got Zoom workplace and Zoom meeting.
Oh,
Um,
I mean, actually, in the Zoom app at the bottom, there's a participants, chat,
wait,
reactions.
wait. I just clicked on a thing up at the top. Now, I've got a window in front of the three of us. Um, meeting info, philosophical evolution seminar, a window in front of in front of Scott and me. Um,
Hmm.
so I don't know whether to just X out of that. Um,
Hmm.
it's
So
so
looking at
odd. It's
that,
just so odd.
you don't see a click with the word view on it anywhere, huh?
No.
No,
Um,
That's
so I don't know
mine's
if I
on the
should.
top right.
I'm going to click
top.
on this little box, this little up in the right hand corner. There's an X, and then there's a shady thing, and then there's a little square. I'm going to
Right?
click on that little square.
Does it say, when you put your mouse on it, does it say anything?
No, doesn't say anything. So if I do that, we'll see. And I just lost you. Um, meeting info. Oh man, this is. Yeah,
Comes
Here
Mitch.
comes, here comes Mitchell.
well, I don't know if he could save us. God darn it. See now I just clicked on. There's Mitch's left
Hey, Mitch.
ear. But I can't get out of this meeting info thing.
Hmm.
Um, there's a now that I'm gonna
Hmm.
X out. I'm gonna X out it and see what happens. Okay, okay. You can see me.
Yes.
Yep.
We'll see. It looks like maybe we're on. So, should we talk about current events? It's almost 12 minutes to the beginning. I don't really want to talk about current events once 3 o'clock comes around, 4 o'clock comes around. Um,
Yeah, and I wanted to go,
I've been absorbed by current events. And I don't mean the
I'll be,
weather either, Mitch. So Frank's going where?
I'm just gonna get my notes from reading
Oh,
your
okay,
note.
okay, okay.
Hmm.
Good to see you, Scott.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep.
Good.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
I'm
it's
going. I'm
I think I've stumbled into
good.
um what it looks what it should be look like after that little 15, 20 minutes of stumbling around with all these different things. So this is more of a casual time.
Well, I have
Um,
to say,
nothing casual about current
on the
events.
top of
What, Mitch?
on the top of my screen, it shows that it's recording. So that's a good sign.
Well, it always records, and the reason I do
Yeah.
know that after talking to you yesterday um, is that when we're done, then then I get a message that I can either stop it, I can stop the recording as after it's over, or let it go, and I always let it go, and I come back a half an hour, and whatever that was doing, it's over, and then I'm recorded. So I think you're right when you told me yesterday that there's no doubt that it's getting recorded. The doubt is that the problem is that those
Access.
recordings aren't accessible
Right.
to everyone.
Hmm.
And so, and Nora's, just like I just in a mess in a moment of panic because it was crazy choices that I had. She was at work, so I tried and I tried to send her a picture of it because she wanted me to do that, and then the picture got all screwed up. So this is where we stand.
Does that access that she gave me weeks and weeks and weeks ago still work for recordings?
I don't think so. Mitch knows a better
Okay.
idea. No, Mitch knows better than I do on that because
I
I
tried
think
to access it, it didn't work.
The only access we have from the link she sent is the
The first couple.
first few up until November, and
Yeah.
after November we have nothing.
Yeah, good. I got those.
Yeah.
so. That's the key to the kingdom here is getting the right link so that um, everyone can access the recordings.
Right.
And Ron who texted me or emailed me a few days ago telling me that he couldn't get on. He wanted to listen to some recordings and he couldn't do it. So then it all got messed up and Mitch helped out. Um, and what we really need is one member that's really, really aware. And that may show up at some point in the future because I'm, gotten ideas of a few different guys here and there um, that I can, that I'm intending to kind of invite to join us. And then being able to listen to the recordings is huge. I guess you all know what happened in Minnesota today.
Yeah,
No, what happened?
another shooting,
Another shooting, yeah.
Oh boy.
And
another
this guy,
death.
and this guy who happened to have a pistol on him, um,
With a frozen.
they're trying to say that he um, uh, brandished it at the
Yeah, the ice.
muscle men, and but there are videos of it which shows that he didn't do that.
Hmm.
That he was actually helping a woman that they had knocked down, and the guy turns out to be a nurse at the Veterans Administration. And he's all legal with this gun he had with him, but he didn't have it out
Wow.
um, until, as far as I can tell, until they shot him in the back. About five guys on him,
Yeah.
and
Ugh.
there's Ron, and then and it was very much like when Renee Good got shot. And then we got this whole story of how she tried to run what's his name, Ross,
Yeah.
down and and then back in the East Coast they're saying all this crap. And so they're doing the same thing again right now to this killing to this guy. And the
Hmm.
guy sounds like a really good guy taking pictures. Um, a registered nurse at the VA and all kinds of other things. So that's today's current events.
Hmm.
What's the weather like there for you, Mitch?
Nobody's going anywhere after this evening because we're having freezing rain and ice and snow for the whole weekend.
Wow.
So what's it look right outside your window?
Oh, it's just gray, cloudy. It's
Ah,
not raining yet, but it's going to start up. We're going to start getting snow. Last night it rained. We got a little bit of ice in some places briefly, but the streets are drivable today. Tomorrow they won't be. We don't have resources the way northern states do to
mhm.
deal with this stuff. I mean, we have it, but they'll put down sand and different things, but it's a general rule. People aren't equipped with the tires and the knowledge to drive in this stuff, and so people are advised to stay home. I grew up in Iowa and Nebraska. I could probably go out and do it, even though I don't have snow tires. But it's just dangerous because the people that are out probably are not great on ice. and
It is.
yeah. I mean, you get used to it when you live up north and you drive on it all the time. You learn to be careful and turn slowly, and but even if you're a northerner,
Yeah.
the first day of ice,
Yeah.
there's always more accidents than the rest of the winter.
Well, I can remember my time in Iowa, you know, when I was in graduate school, and there was a like a week or two when the weather never went above zero,
Yeah,
and people, neighbors and stuff, would bring their car battery inside the house at night.
some people do. That's it's a good reason to have a garage to park your car in. Most people use their garages as storage down here in Texas, but up north, you want to use your garage for your car.
I was just going to ask Ron, is it reaching you in Maryland?
Oh, they say snow should start in about here because we're in very northern Maryland, probably about 4 hours, but it's coming up.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, we have snacks and cozy socks, and I went out to get the mail earlier today, and it's definitely face freezing weather.
Oh
Um,
my goodness.
I think
What about
I think
Virginia?
the week will be it's actually going to be colder on Tuesday into Wednesday. Um, but it's not like I'm not sitting on the porch.
Mhm.
Yeah.
What about Virginia, Tim?
About the same as Ron. So we're just a little further south, but there's the line where the snow stops and the ice begins. We're hoping to stay in the snow part for the most part. I don't know. This storm has had more possibilities in the last week than you could shake a stick at. So, but we're ready.
It's cold here, but that's about it. We're kind of luckily up in our corner regarding this
Mm-hmm.
situation.
Yeah, I saw in Minnesota there was a high of -9.
Oh yeah, these folks are out there. I mean, I've been watching it a lot, including today's assassination, and it was like way below 9, and that was like their high, and they're just all bundled up, and there's thousands of people yesterday out there braving it. Today there are fewer in the hundreds. Um,
Yeah, that's
and then this guy got shot by the ice. He got iced
nice. Anyways,
using a
Yeah.
using a criminality term. Well, so we got something of a quorum. Ron wouldn't mind if I called it a minion, would he? Um,
minions.
so um, that's what this is maybe our we'll see, because it's now, well, it's only 1 minute to 4. So I think
Yeah,
so.
that's right.
Yeah, 4. So that's good. We're doing pretty well. So you all got my sketchy pieces that once you piece them together weren't quite as sketchy. I hope. Um, because those are the themes that I'd like to focus on today. And you can, I'm sure, be pretty clear on the various ones. And appreciation in the title, appreciation of history. And I do mention Santayana. I'm sure you're all familiar with that famous quote. Um, and spirituality, but also consciousness. I think that consciousness is really the most important theme uh, in my mind for today's session. And I do want to do a thing that I've been meditating on. It's resonant with the horizontal chakras, and you're all on that now, I'm sure. So getting comparison of the vertical chakras, which are in the human anatomy, and then the horizontal chakras that it seems pretty clear evolved over a lot of years, like in the millions, and then turned out to be capacities for humankind. Physical, emotional, mental, moral, creative, intuitive, and
Enlightenment.
enlightened. So what I want to do today, as an opening before we begin talking about the piece that I put together, is consciousness, is to do with consciousness on these 7 levels, and look at it in the form of a human lifetime, not the other way of looking at, you might say. I think it's really pretty interesting. So let's start with infancy. A child in a crib. What the child is experiencing, and also you all heard me talk at one point or another about our like it's almost like it would be almost like our breathing, where we inhale and we exhale, we inhale, we exhale, we inhale, we exhale. Well, we also experience and express and experience and express and experience and express. And these are the 2 things we do. And so as we look at the infant in the crib, we recognize that the experiences of that infant are the 5 senses, the 5 physical senses. So that child in the crib is hearing, seeing, feeling physically, like warmth and caressing and stuff like that. And also tasting, formula, and all of those things. And then smelling. And this what they do. That's their experience. One of those 5 senses physically. And it expresses if there's something unpleasant or something unused to or something, and then they'll cry, expressing their dissatisfaction. Not that it's that complicated like a human, like an adult's dissatisfaction, but they're unhappy, which leads us into the emotional nature. And as that child gets a little older, that child is going to have more expression and experience on the influential level. He's going to be disappointed or unhappy about the lack of this or that, or distasteful for the formula as opposed to the way it's been. Let's say mommy's tits. And so suddenly it becomes formula from the store. Then the infant is disappointed and makes a face or cries or what have you. And so this child gets a little older. This infant gets a little older. And let's say, for example, that it begins to think. Maybe ways to work the conditions out so that it gets what it prefers. Sensorily, emotionally, emotional attachments have begun to form. Where this child now maybe thinks of the time and knows that it's time for whatever, or or just knows that if it cries, the mother will come, and cause and effect comes into play. So that now we've seen this child evolve. Hi, Chris.
Sorry about that. Just going round and round with the effing technology that doesn't work. All right. I'm here now.
Well, we were doing that too. Most
We
of
heard that from Phil earlier.
most of
Good
our
to see
chat
you
time,
guys.
most of our chat time was going like that between 1:30 or 4:30 and 3:30. And there was Frank and Scott were here then Mitch and then I
Tim
guess
and Ron.
then Scott then Tim I guess would be the next guy. Ron, no, then Ron, then Tim. Um, and to summarize, Chris, I'm going to go over this briefly with you
Thank you.
because I want to use this as a kind of an introduction to what we're talking about today, which is consciousness,
All right.
and how humankind had consciousness from day one.
Right.
They were conscious of their senses:
Sure.
sound, sight, smell, taste, and physical feeling. And then they began to develop emotional consciousness, how they felt about it. Not that they could think about how they felt yet, but they were thinking about it. I mean, they were feeling about it and crying. And we went through this like the baby formula, maybe isn't the way it usually is, or whatever. And so think about how this consciousness is evolving in this human being at this early stages of his or her life. And so then, as I was mentioning when you showed up, that mentally, then they would be, let's say, recognizing that this is the time they should be getting fed, and they're not getting fed, and then it would feed, of course, to the emotions and so on.
That's somebody you might want to see here.
Is that Annie?
Sure is.
Hello,
Oh,
Professor
sister.
Dan. It's
Sorry,
lovely to
guys.
see
Sister.
you.
Here from England.
Yes, greetings. I'm so
Wow.
delighted to know that you're having seminar on Emerson, who is one of my great, great heroes.
On what? A seminar on what?
Emerson.
Emerson.
Enmity? Is that what you're talking about?
Ralph
No, we're talking
Waldo.
about Emerson, the nature
Oh yeah,
reading.
we're
Not
not
quite
getting
there
into,
yet,
we're not
but-
going to get into him until February.
Anyway,
So but
aloha.
yeah, we're talking about consciousness right now, dear.
Good, good, good.
Nice to see her. Wow.
Yeah, thought you'd get a kick out of that.
Boy, I know you've been wanting to get her here. Now you're going to find out if you can keep her for here forever, right? Knowing you. Um,
Not likely.
We'll talk to you, and I'll be talking on Monday, so we'll find out what the status of that is.
Absolutely.
So, as we think about this process of consciousness, then, you can almost make a long story short here in your own imaginations, as we recognize that we move to the moral nature, and especially if we look at it as what's right and what's wrong. Every kid learns that real early. Like one of the first things we learn. What's the right thing to do? What's the good thing to do? What's the proper thing to do? What's the improper thing to do? What's the bad thing to do? What's the wrong thing to do? What's the unfair thing to do? And so on. A moral nature is beginning to develop in this consciousness of this young human being who's already still got those those senses that are still alive, only more and more complicated, you could say, and so on, developing preferences in what we drink and eat and taste and what we like the taste of and what we don't like the taste of. All of these are senses. But now we have feelings about them, and then thinking goes into it. So I don't like this. Now you're almost a teenager, let's say, and you don't like this spot that you're going. You don't like the way they serve the sundae. So your thinking mind thinks, well, we should go to this other place to get the sundae then, because I know that they do it. As part of your mental knowledge. Now we're in the solar plexus chakra, if we look at it that way. And we're in our thinking mind. It's kind of like when some of us, I know I've done this with all of you, where you're sitting by the chair and you hear a crash outside, you rush to the window and it's all still physical until you look out and see some guy with a crowbar bashing your car in. And now the emotions enter into the game. And then you look at him, and is he 6'6" or 252? And you're thinking it out. If he's 6'6", then I got to call the cops. If he's 5'2", I'm going to run out and beat the shit out of him. And then morally, you might say, well, maybe that's really a cruel thing to do. Maybe I shouldn't do that. Or not. Who knows how all those things work? It's the chakras all the time, but it's also our history. It's our human history that we evolved over millions of years. But they're right there now on the chakra chart, showing us these capacities that we have. So the moral self gets involved in all these variations on here. We got them. And so then, of course, that's the end of the physical pyramid. So I want to bring us to the physical pyramid for a few minutes. I know a few of you have gone over this with me very carefully. Others not. But this is where we once again are in the experience and expression principle. So that we look at this pyramid, just a two-dimensional pyramid, and it has these 3 levels plus a capstone. This is the personal self now. This has nothing to do with creative, intuitive, and what's the word I'm looking for here?
Wisdom?
Enlightened. And so we got up the left side and down the right. That's how we're going to look at this 3 level pyramid, right? And so the physical side is the base of it. That's the physical self. The next level on that pyramid is the emotional self. The next pyramid level on the top of that pyramid, I know a number of you guys know this really well with me. And then the next level is the mental self. And then the capstone is the moral self. Then we move to blue, indigo, violet, if we're looking at it in those colors. And these of course, is creative, intuitive, and enlightened. So we move back to this. So we got the experience side is going up the left side. So what do we see? We see once again the physical senses that provide the experience for the self. That's on the left side. Now that's it. We're on the experience side, right? Experience, express, experience, express. So the next step is the emotional self. So if we have a process of any kind of behavior, the physical information leads to the emotional amazement. Just like a guy runs the window, looks out the window, and has fury in his mind. He's going to go do something terrible. And then the mental self comes into play. And then this is how everything works. So when we're looking at this, back to the baby having emotional experiences and then mental ones and moral ones and so on, these are all degrees of consciousness. All 7 of them. So this is why I refer to consciousness quite a bit in this piece that I wrote on 3 different occasions. and then pasted together. So consciousness is the name of the game. Like when we get into when we start talking about spiritual stuff, and Mitch will be kind of the MC for that, we just call it consciousness, man. Of course, we're talking about spiritual consciousness when we're talking in these terms, but we're also talking about the evolutionary consciousness when we're talking about it in this way. So that's why I'm mentioning in this piece that these things, they just come together, you know, like peanut butter and jelly. That's one of my little lunches sometimes. So as we move up the experiential side of the pyramid, we've got the physical senses of whatever the incident are, then the emotions about it, and then the mental activity on the left side going up. And this can be anything. It can be a scientific theory. It can be because we're getting information that's going to be physical information. They don't necessarily have to be rubbing up against us. They can just be physical knowledge that these storms are occurring or whatever in the material world. And then the emotional, you could say the emotional movement going on, experience, they should stick with, wants us to begin to research it or conduct tests and all kinds of and that's the mental nature. So the mental nature is acquiring all the knowledge that can be gotten about that subject. Now, when we get up to that level, we're getting closer to the other side, right? Because this is a pyramid. I know Frank has drawn it out a few times when we've talked about it on the phone. So now it's getting closer and closer to here. Shorter distance to this downside, actually, the way it works. So then, as I mentioned before, we got the capstone. And of course, that's the moral nature. That would be the heart chakra if we were looking at it in those terms. It's there to kind of oversee what the physical, emotional, mental is doing, contributing. And don't forget that there's also this value system, this consciousness that we need to bring as well. All the way from when we were 3 years old and we're told that this is the right thing to do and that's the wrong thing to do. So once we get up to the mental self, now we're thinking about the downside of the right side of it, the expression side of it. Once enough knowledge, information, reasoning, all the stuff that's going to go on in the mental self is ready to do what the mental self does after it thinks and studies and so on. It chooses. So now over on the right side, we have choice. The mental self is what does the choosing. Opts. Just like choosing that this guy's 6'6" and I'm not gonna go out there even if I had a club in my hand. I'm gonna call the cops. So that now the mental self chooses. We're on the right side going down the other side of the pyramid now. The personal pyramid. So now, where do we get to on the way down? Back to
Gotta
where?
figure out what to do.
We're getting back to the emotional side again. Because the emotions have two jobs. One is to give us the feelings of experience. Now we want the feelings of expression. In fact, if we don't have the proper experience of expression of the emotional side, and that's an experience too, but expression, the self isn't going to do what the mental self chooses. In metaphysical traditions, that emotional self is known as the desire body. We need desire to actually move down one more step and what? Don't say it all at once.
Create.
Act. Act.
Create.
That's what the physical self expresses. Over on the other side, the physical self sensed, looked at it, heard it, and smelled it, whatever. Got all that information necessary, including the stuff that's going to go up to the mental self by way of the emotionals going on up. And so this is it. This is the deal. And all of these are consciousnesses. As we've already looked at it when we think of the child who has the infant who has no other way of experiencing except through the five senses. It can only hear it, taste it, smell it, and so on, until the emotions begin to enter into it. Who knows? I don't know. I'm sure some child psychologists do. Maybe it takes a year. I don't know. Maybe it takes less before they're really beginning to complain because they're unhappy, they're dissatisfied, they're disappointed. Mental self has to contribute to the disappointment, I guess you could say too, because it's saying, well, wait a minute. Well, wait a minute. I'm used to this. That's a mental thought that goes into the emotions and deals this. And we've always got the capstone going, the moral self. Because that's the gateway to the higher self. And we'll come back to that in a minute because I'm going to explain to Ron where I'm sure Ron knows the Hebrew of the word Magen David. Magen David. That's how the wine doesn't call it that.
Mogen David.
Yep, the wine calls it Mogen David. But in Hebrew, it's Magen David. And my friend Joe Kolodner, who I've been trying to seduce into this group, as you know, in Israel, and he indoctrinated me into Zionism and Islam and the whole this business back in 1960, and taught me about Magen David, and he would take me off on Friday night to shul. The redheaded basic training guy who our platoon sergeant thought was another Jew. That was me. And so I didn't have to clean any latrines or anything like that. I would just go to shul with Joe on Friday night and I became a yeshiva booker. I'm sure Ron knows that term. I was a phony the whole way. Joe was kosher, but he didn't care at all about cheating the army. So there we were in that whole thing. So now we're down to action, and we recognize that there's got to be the desire to act. So that means, and that's of course an emotion, but this is where I can just toss in this other aspect of the emotion, which is the subconscious, which is a nature, a part of the emotional nature, which is also mental. It's got to do with mental. In other words, let's say, for example, what goes into our subconscious is everything we ever believed. Now, in the 1970s, we learned how to overcome those things with chanting, with visualizations, like Shakti Gawain, creative visualization, which is all about cleaning out the subconscious mind. Because the subconscious may know, and say Tim says, let's meet next week. And I say, yeah, let's meet. Let's meet. But the subconscious mind knows better, knows that I won't show up. Mentally, I believe I will. I mean, I've known a lot of people like this. And so mentally, I believe I will. I think I will. I intend to do it. I'm not lying or anything like that. I say, yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. Tuesday comes, I space out on it, whatever I do. I don't go it because the subconscious doesn't help me do it. Because it's that part of my emotions that has believed everything I've put in there. And this is what Freud, of course, worked with all the time too. Why do you suppose this comes up for you in this particular situation? It's in the subconscious, that's why. I know they like the term, they like Jung's as well, like the term unconscious. To me, it's too much like a boxing term. So it's like, it's just like, it doesn't really, it's just got too many other meanings for unconscious. Except Jung, collective unconscious, that's a little different. But for me, I like to use the term subconscious. It's all there, but we can clean it out. I hope all of you have had some experience trying to do that because it's there. And it's where we need to clean it out so that it trusts us to actually follow through. So this pyramid is just, to me, is just the greatest symbol for this whole business because it covers the two things we do: the expression, the experience, and the expression. So we experience, we express, we experience, and we express, and we do it in this process through these levels of our own nature, inner nature, external nature, and so on. But what to me makes them really relevant to what we're doing is that they're all levels of consciousness. And this is everything we're doing has got to do with consciousness. And that's where we can go back to the lifetime process from the senses to the emotional feelings to the mental process and so on, all the way up the line. Those are all levels of consciousness. They're all of them levels of consciousness. Now, finally, then, we just want to take a last look at the Magen David. Because the Hebrews, the scientists kind of hijacked the six-pointed star and put it on the fighter planes, and so and considered that to be the sign of Judaism. And it's kind of like if you read The Snow Leopard by my old friend Peter Matthiessen, my late friend Peter Matthiessen, and there he is up in the Himalayas in The Snow Leopard, and he's finding all of these swastikas until we recognize, oh, wait a minute, the Nazis didn't really invent that. They just adapted it, kidnapped it in their own, hijacked it in their own way. And because it looks kind of more militaristic when you look at it sometimes, but it's really a spiritual sacred symbol. All through Buddhism and Eastern philosophy and so on. But even so, if you look at the two pyramids, one of them upside down, and then you see a space between the two of them, is the upper one, the impersonal nature, higher self. is really something that, in order for it to become the six-pointed star, needs help from what? What's in between? So we've got a seven-pointed self, but we're only looking at 2 3s. Red, orange, yellow, then in the middle, and then blue, indigo, violet. Although the pride flag, as you know, drives me crazy every time I see one, because it has no indigo. It only has 6 levels. And I was ordained a minister in a church that we learned to meditate on the 7 chakras. That was our meditation. So green really is like the life-giving nature, just like the nature that we'll be looking at through the eyes of Ralph Waldo Emerson. It's what draws, it's what we travel over to get from yellow to blue. From the thinking mind to the creative mind. And the creative mind, as Mitch really wanted strongly to point out to me a while back, is really where the imagination flows from. The capacity to see things ideationally. The verb is ideate. Finding solutions. The housewife could do it just by getting a stain out of her husband's sports jacket. Aha, aha, I can do this. That's creative mind. But of course, what feeds the creative mind? That's right. Intuitive mind. How often have you had an idea once you had an insight first? And then that insight says, oh, I could use that. Fiction writers, boy, we do it all the time.
I was just thinking about that.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And so, because it works downward now, right? So you got wisdom mind, enlightened mind, that feeds intuitive mind. And then intuitive mind, insights, feeds creative mind. Now, when you've got you could say enlightened self, or you could just say whole self. You've got a 6-pointed star. You've got the union between the higher mind, what Dalai Lama calls, just at my age here, sometimes the terms are a little slow sometimes. Luminous mind is what the Dalai Lama calls it. And it's like, but creative intuitive, there's all kinds of ways you can look at that higher mind. We know that, and we've heard lots of them ourselves. Anyway, it's there. Now, I'll say one last word about William Blake and Willis Harman. Now, I'm sure either one or the other are familiar names to all of you. William Blake, the great poet and artist of the Romantic era, mystic artist. And then there's Willis Harman, who, along with Edgar Mitchell, the former explorer of the stars and Mars and so on, moon. And he was a transpersonal psychologist who later teamed up with Willis Harman, with Edgar Mitchell, to found the Noetics Institute, a spiritual movement that I was a part of, and gave lots of presentations within that rubric. And Harman, in 1981 edition of the Journal of Humanistic Psychology, and it was turned over to me, given to me that issue because of workshops I was giving and so on, but I'd never heard of him. And it's called, and I've got a copy of it. I got copies of these two, both these two, which I'll be sending to you guys in my documents if I don't get lost in there somewhere. And so his essay in the Journal he called it, there's humanistic psychology and there's transpersonal psychology. Transpersonal psychology struck people a little more mystical than humanistic psychology. Dear friends of mine at the University of Hawaii, Sam Shapiro, Abe Arkoff, they were in the psychology department. When I first met Anne, she was in the psychology department at the age of 38. I was 48. And she was in the psychology department, but it was all about statistical stuff. It was all this stuff, modern psychology. And I said, well, you got to meet Sam Shapiro and Abe Arkoff because these guys teach transpersonal psychology over there. And so she was able to, and one other guy, I forget his name. And so she was able to take classes with those guys and get her degree in psychology. And so in Harman's essay, it's called Rationale for Good Choosing. And you'll be seeing that. I'll be passing that on to you in the near future. And he makes this case for the limitations of the mental nature and the moral nature. The heart, strength and so on. And especially though, the mental nature. In other words, what he made the case for was reasoning alone is not sufficient to really find solutions to our issues and situations and problems and so on. And so he said, and he makes this case for what he called, and I use this term often, creative intuitive mind. And he said, reasoning is great. There's nobody who says it's not great. Reasoning being induction and deduction and so on. Induction is one of those great terms, Shakespeare, the great detective, Sherlock Holmes, was always doing deduction, it was all about deduction. But you can't have deduction without induction. Now, there are synonyms for induction, like empirical thinking. It's a great term because it's verbally, it's in the same family as the word empire. And what does empire mean? Well, it means to go out and gather up as many different countries as you can do. So empirical reasoning is to go out there and gather up as much evidence you can get. That's inductive reasoning. You're bringing it in. So you have, and it's really a generalization you can make, right? That's what it really is.
And then when you add the creativity to that, and it comes out deduction.
Well, that's right. So you have enough evidence over here, all Hawaiians surf. And I mean, all residents of Hawaii, I should say. Even the Howleys, like upper left-hand corner there. So, and then you got, well, Frank Miller, he's a Hawaii guy. He must surf. And of course, it's true, he does. Now, the all is, of course, overgeneralized, and it's not really true. I was a resident of there for 34 years. I body surfed, so I could say I sort of had that. A lot of sunburns for that, a lot of skin cancers for that. So, and so, nonetheless, that's a generalization. You need to have that before you can have a deduction, because it's based on a principle. It's based on a generalization. All so-and-sos, all A's are B in the formula. So then you go, well, Chris is an A. Now I know he's not a surfer. So,
What?
or you might have been when you were living in on the windward side. And I shouldn't say that about you. You
Not a
just
surfer.
never since I knew you.
Come on, I got 3 boards under my house and a pair of fins in the
Okay.
closet.
There you go. That's
He's an all
kind of
around.
what I got.
He's an all around guy. I've been trying to narrow him down for decades and decades and decades. Almost 50 years. Well, it is 50 years with Frank, but so more, 53. I think it's 53 years now. With Chris, it was the same time. It was 73. So it was 53 years for you too. So anyway, so you have to have that generalization. Generalizations are good as long as they're well developed. I remember when we were doing a lot of work with Who Shot Kennedy, and we had all these guys with theories, but they were being accused of rushing to judgment because they would get a little bit of data, a little bit of information, and then they would go, oh yeah, it had to be this or that or the other thing. This is all back in the mid 60s, I guess. And so it would be like, yeah, you need the generalization. You need the all A's are B. Then you go, well, Jack is an A. Thus what? Ergo what? That's right. You're all thought of it. I know. He's a B because he's an A. That's the formula of it. Real simple. All A's are B. X is an A. Therefore,
X is a
and
B.
therefore he's a B. That's a true generalization. That's how Sherlock Holmes did it. He would acquire enough inductive knowledge, then he would find the evidence and so on, and he would be able to surprise Dr. What's his name for with that answer. It's simple, it's simple logic. So with back to Willis Harman now. So he makes this case, and you'll be reading it soon, that it's this higher nature, creative, intuitive mind that is going to lead to the solutions for the problems that we face. And reasoning isn't going to work. Reasoning isn't going to do it. You can be a good reasoner, but you can get all caught up with it. So that was it wasn't 81. It was a couple of years later when this guy I knew gave me the copy of that copy of Humanistic Psychology, Journal of Humanistic Psychology. And then it was a couple of years later when I was having fun with William Blake. Now, one guy was writing in 1981, and the other guy's writing back in the year 1900. And you go, well, or 1800, I should be saying.
Yeah.
And so 18th century more, into that period. And so Blake makes his case, and if you'll see it when it gets sent to you, but he was a poet, and he was um, an artist of great Bible scenes, tremendously. He was a mystic. But this is a different kind of a thing. It's like something carved on a stone or something like that, that kind of etching. And it would be these simple statements, prose statements. And one of them is called, let me think about this. I haven't looked at it for a little while. There is no natural religion. And the other was called All Religions Are One. And I don't know necessarily all his argument otherwise, but because that's not really the argument that he makes in these two things. The arguments he makes in it are that the thinking mind is not enough. The reasoning mind is not enough. Exactly what Willis Harman was talking about. Only what Blake called the creative intuitive mind. And this is when you find these things that are from two different parts of the world, two different centuries. And I got a copy of this Zero magazine, little literary magazine that I have. And the guy that founded the Harmonic Convergence, I forget his name at the moment. It'll come to me. And he has a piece in there about these two philosophers in the 19th century, the 18th century, 19th century. One was in America, I think, and one was in Europe. I forget, I haven't read it over in a long time. And they were the same ideas. They had the same ideas. Everything, even though they never knew each other, they didn't know who each other was. They never heard of each other in any kind of way. And and they were just coming up with the same insights, the same brilliant philosophical principles and ideas. Now they were similar at least in the time that they were alive. But in the case of Willis Harman and William Blake, you've got a tremendous difference. And so there you got William Blake saying the exact same thing. And you'll recognize what he called these two energies, human energies, human capacities, because I use the terms quite often. William Blake called him poetic genius. Chris is nodding, of course. I mean, and Frank and probably a couple of others of you. And then, of course, when you have these insights yourself, when you see these resonances, then you can you got these two things, it's like the chakras, really, basically. So you can look at them in a vertical way, but you could also look at them in a horizontal way of time and so on. And so you've got, and these, of course, are the fifth and sixth chakra, if we consider them that way, the creative. And so you got creative intuitive here, creative intuitive, and over here you've got poetic genius. And so then you look across there and you got, yeah, poetic, creative. And then you got intuitive, and you got genius. Now, what Blake is telling us is something that really opened me up in the early 80s about genius. I never liked the idea of a genius, 140 IQs, 140 IQs, and you're a genius, and so is a genius. As long as you can do it. The way I always felt about it is if you made it a complete sentence, like he's a genius at car repair, or he's a genius at poetry, or he's a genius at this or that. Yeah, because we all have it. That's the bottom line of this deal. Everyone has genius mind. It's the third eye chakra. the throat chakra, number 5, blue on the color scale, it would be the creative self, the poetic self. Genius feeds the poetic self. Intuition feeds the creative self. Same as we were talking before about intuition feeding creation. So all of this is tied in, as I see it, to evolution. Just like the 7 steps of consciousness that we're talking about. Of course, that's all evolution. We think of, for humankind, because they're these stages of consciousness that we advance to, if, especially once we get past the heart chakra. If then an amazing set of insights go along with it, you know? And it's that upside down pyramid that joins up into the 6-pointed star, a universal symbol. I got no problem with Judaism using it if they just were willing to say that they don't really own it. Especially with that time that Ann and I and some other friends went to the Academy of Arts in Honolulu on Beretania Street, and we saw this movie about how the Jews and um, uh, Egyptian or the um, you know, Israel and I guess it would be, let's say it would have been what's the Islam? It would be, well, what's the country right east of east of India there?
Jordan,
Jordan.
east of India,
Yeah. And they both have
east
air
of
forces.
Israel.
They both have air forces. And it's really interesting how but it's like claiming some of these symbols to be your own when they're universal symbols because they have so much depth to them and so much breadth to them that it's,
It's a history they don't know.
yeah. So much for consciousness today.
Can I ask you something, Phil?
Ask it.
In this one writing of yours, Human Evolution, Appreciation of History and Spirituality, in the second paragraph, you were talking about temperamental. So I was wondering where you fit temperamental in with consciousness. You say here, clearly the animal who would be considered to have evolved most temperamentally, and then I don't know, is this a joke? Would be Homo not so sapiens.
Well, I just have this habit now of saying Homo not so sapiens. It just seems to be ironic. So
What do they
that's
two of
got
them mean
nothing
to
to do
you?
with that's not got nothing to do with that sentence.
Okay.
The not so part.
Okay.
It's just I think that it's kind of presumptuous to qualify us humankind as universally wise. To me, it's even that's why I love the word. That's why I love the term philosophy, because now we're describing ourselves as a lover of wisdom, not a possessor of it. not a sage. There can be things that are sagacious. We can be, you could say, um, in the context of the sage, but and I'm saying there aren't any sages. There are plenty of them, and there used to be a lot of them. Let's say in Tibet, they're all in Dharamsala, the ones that are still alive, I guess you could say. And sagacity is to me is and I know and Frank and I have talked about this many times. This is all about Jacob's ladder. And I know quite a few of you've heard me say this. And I have no doubt in my mind that the saints are teaching Jacob about the chakras. There's all kinds of languages and there's all kinds of metaphors that we can use there. But to me, the Jacob's ladder is the only thing it could be. And as Frank knows, he's told that the seventh step of the ladder is heaven on earth. What could be a better way of being heaven on earth than wisdom?
Wise. Yeah.
Than wisdom. I mean, I can't think of anything, and I tried and tried and tried. I remember thinking that there's no real synonym for wisdom. And so then finally decided, well, enlightenment is a kind of that. And in Asia, it's in Asian traditions, you'll hear a lot more of that term. Mitch has taken a leak or something, but he and I've talked about this before. And especially back in the 70s and 80s, enlightened or enlightenment was a term where it kind of meant you were either enlightened or you weren't. It's kind of like being wise or not. And so you go, well, this takes me back to the Astrodome when it's all dark. I think you've all had me do that metaphor. Anybody know? Scott, you know that term I use, that metaphor? And Ron, have you ever heard that metaphor? So for me, and Tim, have you? I think you too. So it's like if you're in the Astrodome, it's totally black. You're sitting behind the first base dugout. Out in the left field bleachers, somebody lights a Bic. Can you see it? Yeah. Doubtless, you can see it. Amazingly, you can see it because it's only like this big. And you're, what, 300 feet away or something like that, and more 350 or something like that. And you could see that because it's so black in there that the light shines. For me, that's enlightenment. Wisdom comes in sparks of it. And then we add it together, we add it together, and we add it together, and we add it together, and so on, and we piece it together and relate it to each other and all those kinds of things, and therefore we possess a lot of wisdom. I mean, it's true. Just like knowledge would be back in the third chakra. We get a lot of data, we get a lot of information, we get a lot of truths, they're truths because they're facts. And so all of these things in consciousness really, I think, work that way. So that's where we stand with that. So we get, and I'll be handing out through the line because I do have it in my the Harmon and William Blake thing in the in my documents somewhere. And I think I can do that without help from Nora, and just send them out to you guys and Carlos is back. You know that. I think I've told you all that, but we haven't talked. We were going to, but we never did. I just got so swamped with other kinds of stuff, and he's we'll see about that. Tim Finnegan, as we know, is in the Blue Gum Forest right now, with son Dion, who just got out of high school, and Tim Reith is, I think, still in Guam. So that's 3 other guys. We are 7. You are. So is there any other one guy besides those 2, or is it 3?
Did you mention Finnegan?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Finnegan and Reith and Hidalgo. So, and Carlos is back. He's all fine and stuff, and
great.
but I meant to call him and talk with them and this week and see about what was going on in Mexico and I did some of it. He's just came back feeling very badly about it. And there are a lot of things that he wants to bring to this group. So I'm not sure why he didn't just touch bases, other than calling me to tell me he was back in the States. So it's only 5:02, so that's good. I think let's put our attention, move our attention to the piece I wrote for you. And I did give you a little hint that if you just cut them with the scissors, kind of like that, then they come out to being, and I know Tim Burgess did that. And then you have something that you could actually grok. I don't like to use that term anymore, but I have a hard time not always using it because I do not want to have any term that Elon Musk uses. But and I have insights about him, by the way, just a little side comment. Based on the month I spent in South Africa in the summer of 1964 and the Afrikaners that I got to know. Not too many, but a few. All the South Africans that I got to know were enemies of the state. This is 64.
Mm.
And, and the man was in prison then. And so anyway, grokking is from Stranger in a Strange Land. The great novel, and it had to deeply understand, grokking. And I hate to relinquish that term. So whenever I use it now, I have to say not in the Muskian sense of the word.
Yeah, but
That guy is a racist. That guy's a
spoil it.
racist through.
You didn't appropriate it. You didn't spoil it. You didn't appropriate it. It's not your fault.
Well, I know, but it can be understood that you're kind of getting it from him or something like that,
We know better.
But it's when you come to understand that guy, you know in so many ways he's a terrible human being, but
I'll be right back.
especially racially. And his roots are there in that regard. But I'm assuming that you've all read these things, even though they're scattered a little bit when you get them. And I really feel they're important. So, any comments on those of you that have thought about them and so on, and you could share them with your fellows, and me. And what do you
I took
get?
down some notes.
Oh, okay, good. Well, what do you get from it, Frank?
Well, looking at it from the Amity complex perspective and realizing that today it's very strong, you know, the complex overall is very strong. And I like to play with the words amity to amicable and enmity to enemy. Because if you're not amicable to Trump, you are his enemy. You know, it's the way it works with him. I like the sentence, pockets of enlightenment abound in religious and spiritual pursuits. That's the problem. They're just little pockets. You know, they need to be continent wide. And maybe India is a lot of ways, I don't know, more continent wide, religious or spiritual. But I just like that. Pockets of enlightenment abound. I guess that's good news too. And you know, you see that in things like Mrs. Kirk forgiving her husband's killer, and then countered by Trump's, you know, terrible confession. It's a confession. It's total embrace of enmity, complete as a method. And so those are just some of the ideas that the reading sparked in me.
Clearly. You know which event in history strikes me as the best? I mean, it's just my own prejudice here.
Woodstock,
Huh?
Woodstock.
My was the assassination of Mahatma Gandhi. Who assassinated him? Anything about him? You may not know his name or anything like that, but anything you know about the assassin of Mahatma Gandhi?
I don't know.
Ironically,
Wasn't it a Hindu?
a fellow Hindu.
Yeah, I mean, because you would have figured it was a Pakistani guy or something, but it's
No, that's right. That's right. No, is that because one of there's a lot of Gandhi's quotes that I love,
oh, yeah.
but the one I love the most, I'm a Hindu, I'm a Muslim, I'm a Christian, I'm a Jew. And it kind of became my mantra when I first in 1976 is when I read his journals. When I just got into yoga philosophy and Indian philosophy and so on, and 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 a lot of stuff on non-attachment that was so important to me. And I'm reading, and here's this guy who brought the British Empire to its knees, and he's teaching non-attachment. You know? And in this particular one, when he said that, you know, and I go, man, that is really enlightenment. When you can look at yourself that way. And he was so open to Muslims. I mean, that would be the real enemy of the assassin. And wanting to have a fair division between, India and Pakistan, and how and that's that and I mean at least the guy that killed uh um what's his name you just mentioned,
Kirk?
Kirk, yeah. uh wasn't a fellow right winger. But I didn't know much about him until he got assassinated.
Right.
And I couldn't find much to like about him. I don't think you have to like everybody, you know, but you do have to have that love and that other kind of love. That's how I came to feel about it. Love enables compassion for people who, let's say, hate you. You know, it's like, bless them for they know not what they do. You remember that quote?
I call it Jesus love.
Good advice, huh?
Yeah.
Jesus love. It's like my cat. I have Jesus love for my cat, but boy,
I remember you told me that. Yeah, really. So, what else here? Appreciation of history is a big one for me. For a couple of reasons. One, Anne can tell you, one of the first things I taught her when we first got together was about the word appreciation, about appreciating. Can you imagine why?
you got two different meanings.
That's right. What are they?
One is growth and one is observation.
Well, I would say differently. I would say one is gratitude
Hmm.
and one is improving on whatever it was that was given to you,
Increasing value.
increasing the value of it. And so that's what I'm talking about here. It's evolving from even pain and suffering. It's evolving on terms of your own necessity of the enlightenment that it brought to you. I mean, this is the game, and we're consciously playing in it. We fellow philosophical evolutionaries or evolutionists or what have you, because we're consciously in the process of it. And that's why I'm talking about, because Chris and I have talked about this for years, about having the capacity to pay attention to our own attention. It in itself would be a stepping stone to evolution, wouldn't it? Because I'm watching what every one of us has attention, but every creature has attention when we think about it. But to be able to, you could say, meditate on it, or to be able to watch ourselves be actually doing it. Now you could say certain creatures might say, well, I'm watching this prey, but he can see me. It can see me, right? So then that would be kind of paying attention to your attention in that way. And maybe as a sign of growth, you know, maybe or a higher level of that creature that's mostly instinctual. And you say, I gotta move. I gotta get behind that tree. Now, of course, obviously, not intuition, but instinct already tells you to do that. That's why animals can't make mistakes. Who we have contempt for, you know, the other animals. And so you go, hey, man.
Going to Frank's note, though, I think our cat makes a lot of mistakes, and she just doesn't want to admit it. She's like,
Yeah.
I meant to jump straight into that wall, man. That was my whole plan. You saw me; it was good, right? So sorry.
But you've been domesticating that animal, you see,
And she's been training us.
and,
Yeah.
and stealing that animal's what you know
stealing her innate nature as a hunter.
Yeah, but instead of intuition, it's like instinct. It's instinct that all those natural creatures have, and on the one hand, that we've evolved beyond instinct, except a handful of them, right? Like hunger and a few things like that that are instinctual. But I don't really have much of it myself, but that's another topic I don't need to get into. I mean, really, it's just when it's time to eat, I eat. Um, and Ann will tell you, I mean, that's who I am. But I guess if I didn't eat for 3 days, then I would have to pay the price of it, and back up a little bit and say, well, a little bit, Anything else in this piece?
You would need some pockets of enlightenment there, man, Get
Yeah,
Or some hot pockets.
that would work.
I think that's the most important kind we have is self-awareness too, and that's what I'm kind of getting at in here. Is it that we have this our obligation in the first place to recognize that our growth is really our job and training thing that I talk at the bottom of that first page on the job training, and acknowledge that that's our responsibility. I know I was talking to Tim here and a bit about this idea because we've been talking about different things having to do with natural hygiene and stuff like that. And as I see it, as an organism, as the having the responsibility of my organism, right? It's like if it was an organization and I was the head of it, then I would be responsible for it. And I would be responsible for all the elements of my organization, like Scott there, who has about 20 or 30 people working for him. And he's got a responsibility for all of them so that they do the job well and so on, and match up to his expectations and his abilities and so on. So my organization is really an organism. Same deal. So what is it composed of?
Physical stuff.
Come on. This takes me back to my classroom days. I'm having a ball. So
All 7 chakras.
it's composed of the fucking organs, you idiot. So I go, I never said that quite that way, but so I say, no, it's organs. It's organs. That's why they call it an organism. And think of our responsibility to those organs. Now, I know hardly anybody does. They don't even know about them until they get cancer or go to the organ or something like that. And then they go to the doctor. Well, what does that do? What is it going to do? What kind of, okay, if I don't have it anymore, you take it away or something like that. You say, well, it does something. This is something important. Otherwise, you wouldn't have it in your body. And all of the other animals in the animal kingdom have them too. Maybe we'll have to give you a pig's kidney or something like that, because of course you can have your nephew's kidney or your son's kidney or something like that because you got 2 of them. So that way you can. I've had lots of friends that have had, they're somebody and they're some close relative of theirs with that. But it's like we have so much responsibility there to know where it is, and I admit I didn't know anything about my bladder and my prostate, and so I considered this whole situation that I've gone through, not too unpleasantly really, to be a blessing, and to understand what they're for, and so on. Like I've learned about other stuff in my history, like the colon, man. That was a big lesson for me to learn about the colon and all the importance of it. Instead, I just was walking around with what I called the tinklish sphincter. hemorrhoids, we call them in the med biz. And so, and then I had the great lesson one time when I went to the Kaiser one night, when the emergency. A couple of you know this story, and it was terrible. The hemorrhoids were so bad, and so I went there just hoping to get some suppositories and painkillers. And lo and behold, the guy that was working that night, one of the guys that was working, I guess, one of the guys that was working that night was Dr. Ball, like slaying Sammy Ball, the quarterback. And so he was a German. He had German roots. He was a proctologist, that guy, of all things. And so he says, "You want to get rid of these hemorrhoids?" I said, "Yeah, I do." And he goes, "Cut out alcohol and white flour." And I did. And they all healed up, all healed up. This was in the 70s, you know. It all healed up. And boy, I was learning about diet change and healing and how they just go, one of my lessons in that regard. And we're back to nature again. We're back to the fact that we are creatures of nature. Blessedly. Exactly. And I refer to this a few points, a few times in here too, how we consider ourselves to be separate from it. And creatures, not that we would use that term, but creatures of the artificial world. And therefore we eat artificial flavorings and artificial colorings and preservatives and have all this thing, and we believe they're better. We believe they're better because they're artificial. We made them. When I was a boy, artificial kind of meant not very good. You know, it's artificial. Yeah. It's not real. It's fake. Now we think that the fake world is the better world. We'll talk about a lot more about this when we talk about nature specifically, I'm sure. But the most so appreciation of history to me, of course, Santayana was the one that gave us the idea to do it. But when evolution to me has to have to do with our knowledge of history. I mean, how are we going to build on the future without knowledge of history? Or we'll be like Santayana, we'll be doomed to repeat it. When it's there as evidence of whatever wisdom is trying to get to us. They say, yeah, look at that, you know, look at how that happened, and so on, and so on. It really is the bottom line of all of this, really, to be with marrying spirituality with evolution too. Right there at the top of page 2, which would be, so this brings me to, and I know I started 4 paragraphs with the word so, and I felt that's pretty, I just didn't worry about it, really. And so it is our consciousness that marks individual and cultural evolution, as they also differentiate both from glorious other evidence of evolution that can be so dramatic for so many species, other species in nature's kingdom. We're not instinctive that way. But we are alone the species of conscious creatures who can be conscious of our own consciousness. And we've looked at it now from when we were little babies and had consciousness of one kind, and then when the emotional consciousness came into play, unconsciously, but nonetheless they were there. And then mental consciousness, which is knowledge, moral consciousness, and so on, all the way up the line. And of course, that has to be the path to somewhere. And we got this template that the horizontal plane gives us. And we see how throughout history, we went from just two-legged animals that had physical consciousness, but we didn't really know what to do with it. We're just out there kicking ass on other two-legged animals until the tribe gets us and brings us into the tribe, as Arthur Keith tells us, and will tell us whenever we get around to reading that book. We got to read it online, which is going to be a tough trip. And then we got this training in the tribe on being loyal and being trustworthy and being in love and honoring each other and so on. But as Arthur Keith says, that's only the amity side of it. And so the enmity side of it is how we have to be towards the other tribes, like Under the Mountain Wall, like Matheson's book. And so then we just have this instinct within us, and you could call some of these instincts. And so we inherit this instinct from creatures that know when to look for friend or foe, you could say, or prey or predator or whatever as well. So I'd like to have you look at it a little bit more, and it wouldn't be harming. Well, it's not that hard to do. You just print out the parts of it, and then you take a scissors, like I explained, or like I was actually on TV doing it or something, and then it's easy. Then you just put some Scotch tape on the back, and you got them, and they kind of look like that, you know. And mine are marked up, but because I wouldn't have remembered them all otherwise. And like I say in the next to the last paragraph, today there is a much wider range of humankind. And think about it in terms of those episodes of Nova that we watched, you know, and how romantic they are in a certain way, because they were evolving together. The beads that she showed us at one time, you know, and how the beads took a certain consciousness to do them, and then they had a meaning, a symbolic meaning, and so on. And then the whole tribe kind of evolved together. But there's just a handful of people in the world then. Now there's such a heterogeneous nature of the world population. This is why.
Bill, excuse me. I'm gonna go take my dog out. I'll be right back.
Okay, Frankie. So you got this reference of reincarnation. I forget which paragraph that is. If somebody can point it out to me, if you didn't bring it with you. Oh yeah, it's the top. So this brings me to individual evolution, and also the reference to spirituality in the title. Because I think if we were to be asked, well, let's say that spirituality is a kind of evolution.
Yeah.
And then we would be pretty likely to, not everyone though, probably, but we'd be pretty likely to think of them as individual. But there are groups and religions too that get that, give me that old-fashioned religion or whatever we would call it. And then in those cases, it would be kind of as a group, especially when there's an individual minister giving us all the rules. But it just isn't logical when we think about it. And there's logic is fair in a lot of these examples where we get it that humankind just isn't evolving together. I mean, and it would take a fantasist to assume that we were, that everyone was. There's a period in our history in our last century. A lot of well-known mystics, some of them were writers who were working with these ideas, and but they ended up being accused of being elitists because they were inferring from their observations that not everyone was getting spiritual in unison or waking up to certain spirituality in unison. And so in that regard, it's got to be individual, we would think. A topic that'll come up in future, and I'll let you go on a few, has to do with souls. It's impossible for us to talk about spirituality for very long without addressing the, you might say, just the theory of souls, if you wanted to begin on square one. And then thinking about the semantics of it and how the word soul gets trashed around a lot or tossed around a lot. And so maybe it could just be something like identity. So that instead of souls, we say, okay, we'll call it identity. And then I want to mention to you the book, 40 Years in what, Frank?
Psychological experimentation or something like that.
Yes.
I forget.
40 years of psychic research.
Psychic.
If you were all a lot of lit majors, besides Chris, and he probably didn't hear about this guy, but maybe he did. Well, I don't think he would have been from me. His name was Hamlin Garland. I really recommend that you look him up. As a novelist, he was a tremendous writer. One of his famous books is called Main Traveled Roads, studying American literature when I was doing it in the 60s, graduate school. You couldn't not know about Hamlin Garland. In this book, 40 Years of Psychic Research, he tells the story of how he was approached by these acquaintances of his who were very interested and very open to the idea of the seance and the credibility of it and the credulity of it. And they needed somebody that wasn't really, you could say, hadn't bought into it yet. And then he joined up with them. And for 40 years, he's right in this book, he describes those 40 years as a novelist would do it. And at the same time, how he was, just okay, all right, I'll go in. And this was this study boy, these guys he was working with, they would set it up. They would set up these seances like there was no tricks possible. And sure as shit, every one of them would prove out. And he became a believer. This is the idea of living beyond our death. One example of it. Many others, including what was his name, that surgeon who wrote a couple of books on it, and how, okay, this is a message from Tim. I don't need to get into this right now. We can talk about this other time. But reincarnation will be, when we get into spiritual stuff, we'll be touching on a lot more. Eastern philosophy, Eastern religions are full of it. and
Yeah.
with coming from positions of great wisdom. So that'll be really fun for us to be looking at later on. But if we think about evolution right now, just in terms of are we credible about it? Because the average person, I don't think even gives it a thought. And so if we think about it, we might think, well, one lifetime, kind of like they're telling me at the church, one lifetime is my shot. I'm going to go to heaven or hell forever based on just my behavior in this one lifetime. And God, my influences are so bad. I mean, how am I going to make it? I got one shot at the eternity. And
I'm
what
just starting to figure it out, I mean,
just figure it out. Yeah. Well, you're that kind of guy. I mean,
no,
you're
I mean,
just
it's just,
you're
it's
just a
taking so long. Just
sure,
touching
because
it.
you live up to it too, I know. So, but I think for me it took a while, I think I might have lost my shot at it. I would have. Anyway, it's a fun topic, but it just really logical doesn't seem to go. But then that means you have to buy into heaven or hell in the first place. But I don't think that's so. I don't. To me, the last thing I want to say here in this regard, I think they're in touch with something true. The You could say the various religions that believe that, because that means that there's a sense of purpose in our lifetime, which is better than Bill Maher or Richard Dawkins, so that there's no purpose to it at all, really. I mean, it's up to you. You can do whatever you feel like it and so on, because you're dead, you're dead. You're just here, I mean, it's just, they're early Darwinists, some of them too. We're savages anyway. Anyway,
Yeah.
anyway, it's great to see your faces. I'm looking forward to at least the two Tims, the other two Tims. This Tim is definitely with us. We talk every Wednesday evening too,
Oh, good.
and with the other two Tims, they do have a lot of strain away from what we're doing, but they're with us in all kinds of ways. And Carlos is too, but I mean, I'm not sure if he was able to get through to Betsy's computer. He has all his issues as well. She loves to call him a Luddite, and he and I share this. That's what makes us very deep brothers. Um, and you can tell what kind of a Luddite I am, because I screw up all the technical stuff that we're trying to do, and I'm desperate to find somebody that really knows about it.
You need an IT guy.
Mitch is
Yeah.
good. I mean, Mitch is better, but there's stuff that he's confessed to me he doesn't know about. And Nora is obviously the one. And I'm sorry we lost Morgan, and I'm having a hard time with her since she got fired from Sutton Valley, and that's a terrible loss to all of us. And I know many of you consider her to be the founder of the outfit. She was there that first time, and when I wasn't, and she kind of initiated you into what we're doing, and she was an alumnus of my Life Story Workshop, and a great lady, even finding a couple of copies of the Lost Theory of Love for us. So I'm really sad. Plus, she was a female fellow among us, and I'm always hoping that we'll be able to add a few of them. I've got a couple of other guys in mind as well. Chris, Mitch, you got something to say?
Yeah. I I didn't want to interrupt. There was kind of a flow going, but when you were talking about Homo sapiens and
Right.
how that meant wise and which is commonly accepted as in sapient, And
Right.
but the root word of sapien goes back into the what you'd call proto Indo-European language, the pre-Indo-European language group. It actually means to taste in the sense of discernment. And that's a very interesting thing when you think about it. We're here to taste life.
Isn't
in
there a
all
word
its forms.
sapir, S-A-P-I-R, something like that?
Sapien, S-A-P-I-E-N, as in
Okay, I was
sapien.
thinking another word from that same root, but go ahead.
The root of it, the ancient root in the Proto-Indo-European language group
Right.
is, before history almost, was the sense of taste, to taste. And it evolved into being, I'll use the word evolved, into being, meaning discernment or becoming
Yeah.
wise.
Sure.
So I just had to leave that evolution of the idea of sapien because we're all about evolution in all kinds of ways. But it evolved to being wise, but the original sense of it was about tasting and being able to discern different tastes.
Sure.
So I like to think of, if you're sapient, it's because you've perhaps tasted a lot of different things in life.
Well, I like that too. And then there's Viveka.
What?
And then there's Viveka. You know what that means in Sanskrit?
I'm not quite hearing what word you're saying.
Viveka. V-I-V-E-K-A.
Oh,
Viveka.
okay. Okay.
You know what that means, right?
I once knew Swami Vivekananda.
Right. That meant the blessing of Viveka. So
Yeah.
you guys know that maybe Ananda always at the end of a Sanskrit name means the blessing of, whatever the first part was. But Viveka means, because Chris knows the story, when I got kicked off a jury, because Viveka means discernment, but it also means more literally discrimination. There's one of the words we can't use anymore, like so many of them. Let's say, for example, male chauvinism. So we know what chauvinism means, right? It means extreme nationalism. But then the feminists came along and called it male chauvinism. But the way our language goes, the misuse of it is that the male got dropped. And so now when anybody uses the word chauvinist, they mean a sexist. It doesn't mean that. It means extreme nationalism is what it means. But in my one of my times I didn't make it to the jury. The one of the lawyers says, "Well, what do you think is the most important quality for a jurist?" And I said, "Discrimination." And he does a double take, and he goes, "Well, what do you mean by what do you mean by that? What does it mean?" I said, "Discrimination is the ability to see the difference in things that appear similar, and then you see the similarity in things that appear different," which is a synonym for discernment, really. But that's what the word discrimination means. But we've had it, racial discrimination, and even that is just neutral, can be looked at neutrally and say, well, yeah, if I see a West African and an East African, I can discriminate between the two. Well, now I mean, treat them prejudicially and all that kind of stuff. That's not what it means. It means just to see the difference. That's all it means. Discriminate. Look it up. It's a neutral term. And that's part of the terrible thing that's been done with our language.
Yeah.
That these words like chauvinism, for example, has nothing to do with gender. It has to do with nationality. And I'm sure you can all probably think of another example of it and some other terminology. where the laziness of our culture then
Yeah.
drops the qualifying adjective and still has got the other word. And then it just becomes more
and even more,
misused.
words can be abducted to have special meanings over time and cultures. Like
Okay.
there's a wonderful word to describe the strangest of things. It's a unique word, queer.
Well, there you go. There you
There-
go. Sure.
You can't say something's queer anymore unless you're talking about some kind of a gender thing.
Sure. Although
And
if you're watching an Agatha Christie movie and they use it, then you know there's something
in the
queer
old
about there's
language,
something queer about this.
yeah,
Then-
it was in our language
Because we still
in
know
a
that.
useful way up until the latter part of the last century, the 20th century, and
Oh yeah.
and then and then
And probably not till
queer
the
rights,
60s.
queer
Well-
rights, queer movements, queer parades, all this stuff.
Well, I think there's one a lot worse than queer, and that's gay.
Yeah, I agree with
So
There you go. And isn't it interesting how they both apply to similar things?
do you ever see that movie with Cary Grant called Bringing Up Baby?
Oh yeah, it's one of my favorites.
And there's a line where he's got this outfit on, but it doesn't. He uses the word gay. He said, "Are you
Yeah.
okay?" He said, "I'm gay. I'm gay." But he's dressed in kind of women's class stuff because his stuff is wet. His clothing is wet, and that caught on
Oh, gosh.
to mean gay as being queer. So you go, yeah, but that's such a great word, and if you have to just read earlier fiction or anything,
Any 19th century
the Gay Blade,
books.
the Gay Blade, used to be a fun-loving swordsman, and now it means you got to be a queer one to use the word queer.
Yeah.
And so language is.
I mean, at least I can use the word gay in the sense of, oh my gosh, such and such happened at this event that there was gaiety in the room.
Say that again.
Such gaiety in the
Gaiety.
room.
Yeah,
amongst the
yeah,
people.
it's true. I guess, but nobody ever uses the word gaiety anymore.
No, but if you did, it might be, sensed the right way, but who knows nowadays?
Yeah, no kidding. Well, anyway, thanks for being the last four. It's great to see you all. I'll be talking to you on Monday.
I had dog duty
Great
today.
to see Ann. Great to see her. That's his sister.
I see.
She was also a student of mine way back as the whole family was back in the 70s, and then she's a tremendous art historian and is a widow now. Her husband was a major poetry scholar in London and Oxford, and she's now on her own, and Chris is trying to do everything he can to seduce her back to Hawaii.
Good. She's sitting right over there. She can hear everything you say.
No kidding. Oh, sorry about that. I was thinking more like sexually, but that's a bad joke. Bad joke.
Thanks. That makes it better. You're doing real good. You want to keep rolling with this? Look out.
Well, as I read that once you're that far, that long separated from your siblings, then all the things change, all the rules change. You know me, I can get myself into deeper and deeper.
Yeah, you sure can.
Stop
Now
now.
So
keep laughing.
it's yeah, she knows my sense of humor.
Yeah,
She is such a great lady, boy.
she is a great lady. There you go.
Yeah,
That works.
yeah. And it's good to
All
see
right.
you, Scott. It's been a
Yeah.
while, man.
I got to go
should-
pick up my wife and have a gay old time.
Yeah, say
There you
hello,
go,
and
Scott.
let's get together sometime
on.
real soon ourselves.
Okay.
Have
Good.
have a bite together some next week or two.
Yep. Good idea.
Okay, I'll leave it to
Okay.
you, which means that way probably won't happen. So
Something will happen.
put
Okay,
Deb
good talking to everybody.
he just left me.
See y'all.
Okay, well, you'll be hearing from me, and what we're going to be doing for the next 2 weeks. But I think I think it may be. I really wanted to get into the Amity thing here only because of the terrible interruptions that it is um, to our growth and how we see it, so much of it now in this business with these troops all over the country now, and how the polarization of them is so much there, and it's really very, very sad. And if you guys haven't heard about the guy that got shot today, um, you'll be hearing about that story soon when you get home. It's
Yeah.
all over CNN and MS now. Um, it's just sad, 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 and heartbreaking, and how polarization is just there, so that if it's this or that, and then you just line up in favor of it or against it without any kind of mental effort.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Talk things. Yeah.
it's poor Minnesota.
Regarding the,
Well,
I wanted to ask about the next meeting because
Well,
the second,
it'll be
the
2
second,
weeks.
the second Saturday is 3 weeks from now.
You good for that?
Yeah, I'm just
I
saying.
think it's set up for that way,
Yeah.
It's a mystery to me. You being a host, you'd never imagine it, but and so I think that it's the second and the fourth Saturdays of every
I
month
can,
that it's open. I don't know what I would do if I tried it next week, let's say,
right.
if the program or whatever would be accessible. I mean, I don't know. No reason to try or experiment with it. I don't think it's all the time. Maybe it is. Maybe I would just go Zoom and it would be there again for me. I don't know. I hate this side of it, the technical side of it.
Yeah. I, I have a feeling it could
I
go
should.
anytime, but if it's just going to be the
Nora,
14th and
I'll
20th,
ask Nora about it. She's
yeah,
coming over on Tuesday for a little brief. She is so locked up with stuff
right.
that but there's a book I got for her for Christmas that she still hasn't picked up. Um, so she needs to get it. Anyway,
the good thing I like about, that sometimes we have, more, the month is, 4 weeks plus 3 days, oftentimes, or 2 days. And so every few months we have a break. Instead of 2 weeks between meetings, we have 3 weeks.
right.
And this particular one will be 3 weeks, and that should give plenty of time for people to read.
Read Emerson.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what? I've been reading for fun Darwin's on natural what do you call it?
Selection,
What?
natural selection.
Natural selection, yeah. And I really like it a lot, I like his sentences. I think that there's a lot of real truth in it, that he's not getting into dog eat dog and all that kind of stuff. Um, it's got a lot more to do with the logic of how certain species survive and stuff like that. But I like his writing. I mean, and it's been a while since I've read it, and so I've been playing around with it. But I'm looking forward to getting back into. And there's not that much anyway when we do Emerson. It's only about 35 pages. The copy I've got is called Nature and Walking, and it's a uh, uh, the British publisher, what do you call it? It's a small book. It's and so it's got, and Walking is by Thoreau.
Hmm.
And so
I've seen that book online.
um,
Yeah.
and so but they're both about 70 pages, 65 pages long, each of them. And so we'll have 2 weeks. We'll have 2 different sessions on nature, and it's beautiful. It's beautiful the way I haven't read it for a long time now, several a month or two, and it's beautiful to see the way Emerson takes you on several different openings up, to nature. And I especially, the thing that really gets me is when you look at the very first one, and that one level is when he calls it commodity.
Yep.
And you go, yeah, that's a first human thought looking at nature as a commodity.
Right.
And then the steps of waking up to it and are so really beautifully done.
Engineers.
It's just the thing about it is that I'm underlining almost every sentence.
That's a good book, man. It's a good book. They use different colors.
It's just so great, Anyway, I love you guys, and I know it was kind of a lecture today, but we'll be opening up more and again as we do, and I just wanted to give you this foundation, that's all my own, Now
Yeah.
some of you got parts of it, and I know you've got bits and parts of it, but I love the pyramid image.
Yeah.
And I know Frank and I have been working with it for a long time too. And the steps of it, when I use it in creative writing, then I have the pyramid be the base of it is setting. Chris knows this. And the next level is setting is plot. And the next level, next level is character. And then the next level is plot. And then the
Then
top is
point.
point of view. And so we work with it in all kinds of creative writing classes. He probably still does it. It's really, and in the workshop I do it, and Ron took the workshop. Of course, you guys were in the same workshop that you'd done it before, but that last summer I was in town and we did it at that church, remember?
Yep.
With the big crowd, and I had all my graduate students doing groups. Remember that? That was cool. Anyway,
I gotta go.
we'll have some things to say about the Patriots on Monday.
Hasta la vista.
Hasta la vista. See you guys in a couple of weeks, man.
Aloha.
Love you all. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Take a bottom turn for me, Frank. All
What?
right, buddy. I'll see you on Monday.
Yeah. Good. See
Be
you.
well.
Talk to you then. Be well.
Bye.
Okay, bye, Chris.
Bye-bye, man.
Bye.